Beruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Tzadik Dalid Amud Aleph, 2 lines from the bottom. The Gemara quotes the Mishnah that the Tanakam, who's Rabbi Yehuda, says that if a person takes a mace out with a mita on Shabbos, he's going to be chayiv chatos. And not only that, but even if we were to take a kazayis of a mace. In other words, according to Tanakam Rabbi Yehuda, a malacha she'ena tzricha legufa is chayiv, because even though he doesn't need then to take out the mace other than to then remove it from the house, so it should not mitame the house, or the kazayis of the mace as not to mitame the house. Nonetheless, a malacha she'ena tzricha legufa is chayiv, whereas Rabbi Shimon argues and he says potter. Says the Gemara, quoting our Mishnah as hameis b'mita chayiv v'chein kazayis min hameis v'chulei. Omar Rabbi Babarchan Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yosef Omar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. Poiter haya Rabbi Shimon af b'moitzi es hameis lekovroi. Not only is it going to be potter when a person takes a mace out on a mita to remove the mace from the house, is not to metame the house, but even if we take the mace out in order to bury the mace, still, says Rabbi Shimon, he would be potter. That's also going to be a malacha she'ena tzricha legufa. Omar Rava comments, Umoide Rabbi Shimon b'mar lachbor boy v'sefer Torah likrois boy dechayev. Rabbi Shimon, however, would agree that if a person would take out a hoe in order to then dig with, or he would take a sefer in order to then read it, Rabbi Shimon would agree that that would be chayev. Ask the Gemara, Pshita, Di'iha nami malacha she'ena tzricha legufahi. Is this also considered to be a malacha she'ena tzricha legufa? He's taking the hoe out in order to then use it. He's taking out the Sefer Torah in order to read it. So certainly that's not going to be a malacha she'ena tzricha legufa. El malacha she'ena tzricha legufa, Rabbi Shimon heichi meshkachasla. What would be considered then a case of malacha she'ena tzricha legufa, according to Rabbi Shimon, that he would be chayev for, if this would not be it? Explains the Gemara, Ma would the same. No, I might thought that it's not just good enough that he would take out the sefer in order to read it, because that would be using the sefer, but it wouldn't be helping the sefer itself that you're taking it out. And therefore I might think, Adi'ika legufoi ulegufa, until I take the object out for itself, as well as the usage of that thing. Kegon mar la'asos loitas v'lachbor. For example, a hoe would become blunted, and therefore he wants to then fix the hoe by putting a metal plate on the end of the hoe. And he would then use it also to then dig. Or a Sefer Torah lahagia v'likrois boy. Take out a Sefer Torah in order to then first edit the Sefer Torah, fixing the Sefer Torah itself, and then reading it. Only then I would think he would be chayiv, according to Rabbi Shimon. That would be a malacha shetzricha legufa, because I need the object itself, and the usage of the object. Kamash malan, the very fact that a person takes out the object to use it, that itself is his intended purpose, and that will be considered to be a malacha shetzricha legufa, and even Rabbi Shimon will be moeded yibi chayiv. The Gemara says the following incident: Hahu shichva dahava bidroikas. There was a dead body in the area of Droikis. Shora Rav Nachem bar Yitzchok la'apuke lekarmelis. Rav Nachem bar Yitzchok permitted the dead body to be taken out into the Karmelis. Omar Rabbi Yochanan achu demar brei de Ravona Rav Nachem bar Yitzchok. Keman, to whom do you hold like? Ke Rabbi Shimon, like Rabbi Shimon, and that's why you permit taking the dead body out, because the malacha she'ena tzricha legufa. Eimar de poter Rabbi Shimon mechayiv chatos, mechiyuv chatos, isura de rabbanan miya ika. Even though Rabbi Shimon, it's true, is not going to then mechayiv a chiyuv chatos, but still malacha she'ena tzricha legufa remains to be poter aval aser, and therefore how can you permit him to take a dead body out? Omar le ha-Elokim. Rav Nachman said back to him in an oath, the Eilis Beyat, you yourself will be able to take the dead body out. And even according to the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda, who said the malacha shetzricha legufa is chayev achatos, it would be permissible. The mi ka'amina l'rishus harabim. Did I say it's permitted to take the dead body into the rishus harabim? No. The karmelis ka'amina. I was saying that it's mutter to take the dead body into the karmelis, which is only an Isser Drabban, taking from rishus hayochi to the karmelis. And therefore, gadol kavod habriyo shedoiche es losashe shebatara. In this case, because of the mace, the kavod of the mace, thereby not degrading the mace, even in regards to the laxity in an Isser D'Rabbanan, based on the pasuk lo sosir, do not deviate from the words of the Chachamim. Here would be permissible. Then they made it more makil. They took away the Isser D'Rabbanan in such an instance when it's kavod habrios, and therefore gadol kavod habrios miloisase of loisosur shebat Torah. Says the Gemara Vayter Tanan Hasam. It says in a Mishnah, Hatoilesh Simone Tuma, in regards to the signs of a Neget Saras, it says that one who would pluck out the Simonim of a Baheris, where there are white hairs, Vehakoy Vehamichye, in regards to the Se'es type of Saras, where there's a growing of hair and a living type of skin next to that growth, and he then removes that living skin, which indicates there's a neged saras over here, and he burns it off. It says oive beloisase. Such a person who does that, either he's toilish the hairs or he burns the area of the living skin, is going to be oiver in issa deraisa of. It says Hishomer b'negat saras, and Hishomer is a language of Eloisase. So it includes being mevatil the simonim. In order for a person to become stated as being tamei, he has to show the tsaras to the kohen. The kohen sees the simonim and he declares him to be tamei. But if he removes the simonim, in this case he plucks out the hairs, or he were to burn off the living skin, that will then prevent the kohen to then show that he's to declare that he's tamei, and that's an iser of hishomer b'negat saras. Itmar, there's a following statement that was taught on this. Achas mishtayim chayiv. If he would pluck out, in regards to the first case, if he would pluck out one of the two white hairs, he would be chayiv chatos. That everybody agrees to. Or chayiv malchus, because it would be a lav. Ocha achas misholosh, if you pluck out one of three hairs, there's a machloikis. Rav Nachman Omar Chayav, Rav Sheshes Omar Potter. Rav Nachman Omar Chayiv, Ahani Maisov. Rav Nachman said he would be chayiv for plucking out one of the three hairs because his maisa of plucking one hair out has significance. Because after all, because if one other hair would be removed, then indeed he would lose his status as being tamei. There wouldn't be a sign that the kohen can then declare that he's tamei. Rav Sheish is Omar Potter because hashtamias ha'isa letuma. Because right now he still remains tamei. Because after all, by plucking one hair out, he still has two hairs that declare him to be tamei. So Rav Nachman again says that if you take one hair out, he's going to be chayiv, because by taking one hair out, that has significance. Because another one could be taken out, and thereby he won't be able to be determined to be tamei. Whereas Rav Sheshes says right now, however, when he takes out one hair, he still remains tamei because he has two hairs. Omar Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes says, Menoa minala. Where do I know my position to say that when you take one hair out from three hairs, it's potter? Disnan, for it says in the following Mishnah, our Mishnah, V'chein kezayis min hameis, v'kezayis min hanavela chayiv. Our Mishnah says, if a person takes out a kezayis from a mace or kezayis min havnevela, that's going to be chayiv, a korban chatos, because he's removing the tamei, the tuma, from the house. And according to the Tanakama, a malchshen tzricha legufas chayiv. Diuk hachatzi zayis potter. Half a zayis, if he would take out of the mace, would be potter. Yet v'hatani, it says in a brisa, chatzi zayis chayiv. So we have a contradiction. On the one hand, the diuk in the Mishnah says chatzi zayis is potter, and yet the brisa says chatzi zayis is chayiv. My love hodetanya chayiv the api chatzi zayis mikazayis. Is it not that the brisa that says that it's chayiv is talking about when you take out a half a kazayis from a kazayis, and that's why it's chayiv, because you're removing the tuma by taking a half a kazayis out of the house. The hodesnan potter, and that which we said a diuk from the Mishnah that it's potter, the api chatzi zayis mikazayis mechza, where you're taking a half a kazayis from a kazayis umechza, and therefore you're leaving the kazayis in the house, whereby it's still metam in the house. Similarly, in the case where you take out one, you pluck out one hair, you're still remaining with two hairs, whereby the person can remain tamei when the Kohen comes and sees and declares him to be tamei. Rav Nachman, Rav Nachman says both this case and that, meaning the case of when you take a half a kazayis from the kazayis umechza, as well as the kazayis from a half a kazayis from a kazayis, will also be going to be chayiv. V'hodesnan potter, when it says potter in the Mishnah, that means the diuk of the Mishnah is the api chatzi zayis mimeis gadol. It's talking about when you have at least 2 or 3 kazaysim, lav dafka a full mace, and then when you take a half a kazayis, you're left with at least 2 kazaysim. That's when it doesn't have any significance whatsoever, and therefore that's the diuk of the Mishnah that says potter. Zakt the Gemara weiter, bring the following Mishnah, a new Mishnah. Hanoitel tziparnov zu bezu, a person who takes off his fingernails with his other nail, one with the next. Oy bishinov, or he bites off his fingernails. V'chein sa'aro, he plucks out the hairs from his head. V'chein svamoy, or from his mustache. V'chein zikonoy, or from his beard. V'chein hagoydel is also a woman, similarly, who braids her hair. V'chein hakocheles is a woman who puts on makeup, eye makeup. V'chein hapoikeses, and similarly somebody who takes her hair and combs it out with her fingers. Rabbi Eliezer mechayiv, in all of these cases, Rabbi Eliezer says it's chayiv, it's not considered to be a shinui. V'chacham oisrin mishum shvus, whereas the chacham say it's also midrabanan. The term shvus is an isur d'Rabbanan. We find the pasuk, it says, in regards to shvus, it says, ubiyam hashabas hashvi tishvois. And therefore the Chacham said anything that going to then have a similar to a malacha, or that will be then doing an act that will make it so that's like a weekday type of act, therefore they answered it, calling it a shavus. It's an isur d'Rabbanan. So therefore all of these cases in the Mishnah, the Chacham argue with Rabbi Eliezer and they say these type of things are shinuim, and therefore they're an isur d'Rabbanan, not chayiv chatos. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Elazar, machloikis biyad, aval bekli chayiv. The machloikis in our Mishnah, in regards to what we said, plucking out hairs or taking off the nails, is talking about when one does so with his hands, but not with a kli. Otherwise, if it's with a kli, everybody would agree, including the chachamim. Ask the Gemara Pshita, zu bezutnan. It says in regards to taking off your fingernails, it says this and that. So everybody agrees that in regards to fingernails, if you're going to do it with a kli, remove it with a clipper, for example, that's going to be chayav. Even the Chacham agreed to Rabbi Eliezer. The machloikis in our Mishnah is in regards to removing the fingernails with one's fingernails. What might you have thought to say? Rabbanan b'klinami patre, that the Rabbanan would say even with a kli would be pater. But it says zu bezu. V'hodik tani zu bezu lo diacha koichet Rabbi Eliezer. Kamashman, only to teach you the koich of Rabbi Eliezer says chayav. Kamashmalan, that it's also going to be pater according to the Chachamim. V'omar Rabbi Eliezer Elazar machloikis la'atzmoi. This machloikis, in regards to removing one's fingernails, is when he does so himself. Aval lechaveiroi, but in regards to his friends, divrei hakol pater, everybody agree if he removes his friend's nail, it would be potter if he does so with his own nail. Ask him more pshita. That's straightforward. Tzipornov Tanan. It says his nails. Mao Desema, what might you have thought? Rabbi Eliezer lechaveiro nami mechai. Rabbi Eliezer would say, if even if you do with your friend and you remove his nails with your own nails, it would also be chayiv. Why did it say tzipornov? It only says tzipornov to show you the Rabbanan's karach that even there it's going to be potter. Kamash malan, that even Rabbi Eliezer would agree that it's going to be potter when it's his friend's nails. The Mishnah now, the Gemara quotes is v'chein saroi v'chulei, also when he plucks out his hair from his head. Tano, it says hanoitel moloi pi hazug chayev. If somebody takes out the point of the scissors, the full amount of that point, the edge, the end of the scissors, that's going to be chayiv. Ask the Gemara, the kama moloi pi hazug, how much is the point, the end of the scissors? How much is that going to be? What's that shiur? Rav Yehuda shtayim, 2 hairs. It says in the rest of this brisa, if one pulls out one's hair, is going to be chayiv if it's a amount of 2 hairs. Is mashma that the ratio is not talking about 2 hairs. You have to read the brisa to say v'chein, and similarly, when it comes to pulling out one's hair, even if it's going to be 2 hairs, that's going to already be mechayiv. Tanya mihoch, we also have a brisa that supports this. Hanoita moloi piazug b'shabes chayiv. The person will then take out, he will be noitil, he take out the amount of hairs, the pi zug, that's going to be chayiv. V'kam moloi piazug shtayim, says the brisa. Rabbi Eliezer omer achas, Rabbi Eliezer says even 1 will be chayiv. Umoidim chacham, Rabbi Chacham agreed to Rabbi Eliezer that 1 is also chayiv. In which case, b'malake levonos mitosh choros, shafilu achas chayiv. If you were to take 1 white hair when it's between black hairs, that will also be chayiv, because that also has significance. V'dover ze'af bechol aser. The Gemara points out even during the week that would be aser. Why? Mishum shenemar lo yilbash gever simlas isha. Because after all, this is a womanly thing to do, and therefore it becomes to be the Easter, the prohibition of lo yilbash gever simlas isha, not to wear the clothing of a woman, meaning also to do acts in this manner, also like a woman, which would be plucking out a white hair amongst black hairs. Tanya, the Gemara brings a brayso of Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer, Tziparin shipiresh ruba v'tzitin shipirshu ruban biyad muter bekli chayiv chatos. When it comes to the, to the nails, if most of the nail is already removed, or when it comes to the cuticles, if the majority of the cuticle is already removed, and a person then goes ahead and removes it with his hand, it's mutter. If he removes it with a kli, then it's going to be chayiv chatos. Ask the Gemara from one extreme to the other. If indeed it's going to be chayiv chatos with a kli, then the Chachamim should have made an iser d'Rabbanan with a hand, because that could lead to then removing with a kli. Ask the Gemara, mi'ika midi de bekli chayiv chatos ubiyad muter lechatchila. Would that be true? That would be muter lechatchila with a hand. Hachi kamar. The Gemara says no. This is what it means to say. Pirshu ruban. If the majority of the hair, or in this case the cuticle rather, was already removed, then biyad is mutter. Then with one's hand, it's mutter to remove. Bikli potter aval aser. If one removes it with a kli, it would be potter midrabanan aval aser. Potter aval aser midrabanan. Loy pirshu ruban. However, if the cuticle is not mostly already removed, biyad potter aval aser bikli chayiv chatas. Then if one does remove it with his hand, it will be potter aval aser. With, if he does it with a kli, it will be chayiv chatos. Rabbi Yehuda halacha Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Indeed, the halacha is like Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar in this regard, in regards to the roiv being already removed. Omar Rabbi Barachana Rabbi Yochanan v'hu shepirshu klape malo umetzaros oisoi. Rabbi Barachana Omar Rabbi Yochanan qualifies this statement. It says, when is it true that when roiv of the tziparin or the cuticle, in this case the cuticle is already removed, you go ahead and remove it with your hand? That's talking about when it's going to then mitzar the person, because it's it's being removed klapi the upwards towards the nail, then it's going to be mitzar the person, and because of that distress, he's permitted to move it with his hand lichatchila. However, if not, it'll be isur d'Rabbanan, and therefore one has to be careful from doing that if it doesn't have the same situation that's mitzar him.